Nicolas, the vampire who chose oblivion. He had music in his veins and despair in his soul. Nicolas de Lenfent wasn't just Lestat's first love. He was the mirror that shattered when touched by immortality. We remember Lestat as the brat prince, rebellious and radiant. But before the fame, before the blood and fire, there was Nicolas, a violinist with trembling hands, a friend who stood beside Lestat at the foot of revolution. But then, he was turned, and the boy who once longed for freedom chose silence instead. He walked into fire, quite literally, and never looked back. So how did Lestat's greatest bond become his deepest wound? This is the tragedy of Nicolas de Lenfent. Nicolas was more than a side character. He was Lestat's tether to his mortal past. They fled their provincial lives together. Therefore, when Lestat was taken by Magnus and turned into a vampire, he couldn't let Nicolas go. He turned him out of love, out of guilt, and perhaps out of desperation. But unlike Lestat, Nicolas didn't revel in the gift. He recoiled from it. His violin, once alive with passion, fell silent. The world that had once felt too small now felt endless and meaningless. But then he found purpose, briefly, in the Théâtre des Vampires. He created it, in fact. Not Armand, not Santiago, Nicolas. A place of shadows and performance, where vampires mimicked death to hide their own. But instead of finding peace, he descended further, into madness, into fire. Here's something most forget. Before the theatre, there was the violin. The instrument becomes its own side story. Nicolas poured every bit of human feeling into it. When he lost his grip on reality, he also lost the only thing that gave his new life meaning. It wasn't just the blood that poisoned him. It was the silence afterward. Lestat would later say that Nicolas chose to be destroyed. But what if it was the absence of music, the one thing anchoring him to who he was, that truly broke him? Nicolas's arc isn't just Gothic tragedy. It echoes ancient truths. In European lore, some believed musicians were cursed, their gifts coming from otherworldly pacts. In Nicolas, we see that cursed artist, brilliant, fragile, consumed by what should have set him free. Traditional vampires fear stakes and sunlight. Anne Rice's vampires fear something worse, eternity without meaning. Nicolas isn't a monster. He's a man who asked, "Why me?" and never found the answer. There's something painfully human in Nicolas's fall. He didn't go mad because he was weak. He went mad because the world changed, and he didn't. Therefore, his story becomes a warning. Not all who are given immortality survive it. Not all bonds survive the change from flesh to fang. And Lestat, he never fully recovered. Every time he plays the violin, it's Nicolas he's mourning. We talk about Lestat's victims, his lovers, his enemies. But none cut deeper than Nicolas, because Nicolas wasn't lost to a villain. He was lost to the very thing Lestat thought was a gift. So maybe the question isn't why Nicolas walked into fire. Maybe the real question is, what if he was right to? Nicolas burned because he couldn't bear the silence. But what would you have done in his place? Would you endure an eternity without purpose, or walk into the flames? Comment below and let us know which tragic vampire tale you want next.